In today's video, I'll be showing you why super saver retirees who understand how the U.S. retirement system actually works almost always claim Social Security late and convert to Roth early, and why doing it in the opposite order is one of the most expensive mistakes that you can make. Through working with clients who were about to claim Social Security early and skip Roth conversions entirely, I've discovered that once people really see how RMDs and life expectancy and IRMA and survivor benefits all work together and interact, well, the decision becomes obvious. They just needed someone to help them understand the math and help them understand the dirty secret of Social Security timing. And that's exactly why I'm making this video today, to walk you through exactly what retirees see that changes their mind so you can make this decision based on real math instead of guessing. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Benjamin Brandt. I've been a financial advisor focusing on retirement planning for almost 20 years, and I want to make your retirement even better. So let me introduce you to Cheryl. She's 62 years old. She's got $3 million sitting in a traditional IRA. No brokerage account, no Roth account, just $3 million in a tax-deferred account that the IRS is very much looking forward to getting their hands on. Now, Cheryl, like many of you, is a super saver. She's always lived below her means, and she's invested the difference and done everything right. But here's the thing about being a super saver. She now has a problem that many people wish that they had, but it's still a problem. She's got way more money in her IRA than she needs to hit her retirement income goals. Now, her plan is to spend $90,000 a year, adjusted for 3% inflation. She expects to live until age 100, which is pretty conservative, and she really has a decision to make. Should she claim Social Security right now at age 62, or should she wait a few years until age 70? Now, I'm going to keep this example as clean as possible, right? We have a single filer tax status. We've got one account, her traditional IRA, and one spending number, $90,000 a year retirement budget. So we isolate one variable at a time, and we're going to start with lifetime taxes. So let's talk about Cheryl's Social Security options. If she claims her benefit at 62, that is going to be about $26,400 per year, about $2,200 a month. And if she waits until 70, that number jumps to about $46,200 per year. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into our tax software, and we're going to look at these two scenarios side by side and see how our lifetime taxes change if we claim at 62 versus 70. Now, if you've got a guess, which is lower lifetime taxes, 62 versus 70, go ahead and put your guess in the comments. So all of our examples are going to be exactly the same, except we are changing when we claim Social Security. So rates of return, rates of inflation, all that's going to be exactly the same. So I'll go over this once. Our general inflation assumption is 2%, and we have no taxable assets. We just have tax-deferred assets, $3 million at a 7% rate of return. No Roth assets. When we do have Roth assets, we're going to look at Roth conversions later. We have those at an 8% rate of return. Basically, your retirement engine, your IRA, is going to have, stocks and bonds. Generally, your Roth has less bonds because that's the growth engine for long term. So we usually give those slightly different rates of return. And then life expectancy is 100. In this example, she is claiming Social Security at 62 this year at a $26,400 annual amount and 2% inflation. Her spending is $90,000 a year at 3% inflation. And as of right now, we're not doing any Roth conversions. So what does that look like? Well, her lifetime taxes, you can see that we have her income is this blue line here until she's forced to take more income. That's this blue line sloping up, and those are her required minimum distributions. So believe it or not, she wants $90,000 a year in income. She's going to be having over $1 million a year in income. Granted, that's 40 years from now number, so we'd have to do a present value calculation. But if we add up all those cash flows and we assign our effective tax rates, we actually have projected taxes of about $4.2 million. So remember that number. Collecting Social Security at 62, her lifetime taxes are estimated to be about $4.2 million. Now, what happens if she waits and claims Social Security at 70? Well, we have all the same variables here. Nothing has changed other than Social Security now starts at 70. It's $46,200 a year and still a 2% inflation rate. So we have to live off of our portfolio in the meantime. Very similar looking cash flow projection here. And our projected lifetime taxes are $4.3 million. So scenario A, Cheryl claims at 62, her lifetime tax bill, roughly $4.2 million. Scenario B, Cheryl claims at 70, lifetime tax bill, about $4.3 million. That's it. That's the difference. Basically a rounding error on a $4 million lifetime tax bill. Probably not what you expected. And here's why those numbers are nearly the same. From an actuarial basis, Social Security is essentially neutral. Collecting Social Security at 62 is a smaller payment for a longer amount of time versus collecting at 70 is a bigger payment for a shorter amount of time, which leads us to the dirty secret of Social Security timing. If you die exactly when you're supposed to, it really doesn't matter when you claim. If you die exactly when the government thinks you're going to die based on the year that you were born, your lifetime payout from Social Security is essentially identical whether you claim at 62 or whether you claim at 70. And the system is really designed this way. And because your income is almost the same in both scenarios, your taxes are almost the same as well. So if your Social Security claiming age doesn't really move the needle in your lifetime taxes, what does? Well, before I reveal that, if you want the best retirement planning articles and podcasts and YouTube videos delivered straight into your email inbox every week, you should join my newsletter. It's called This Week in Retirement, and I curate the top 2 or 3 from each category so that you don't have to scour the internet looking for them yourself. So the link is in the description below, or visit thisweekinretirement.com. So how do we actually move that tax needle? Well, we do Roth conversions. That's the answer. And here's why Cheryl needs them. Cheryl has $3 million in a traditional IRA. She's spending $90,000 per year at a 7% rate of return. Her account is simply growing quicker than she can spend it, which sounds really great until she hits those RMDs, which for her are going to start at age 75. At age 75, the IRS is done waiting, right? Pipers must be paid. Required minimum distributions kick in. It's going to force Cheryl to take money out of her accounts, really whether she needs to or not. And here's the thing, that balance keeps growing and growing, right? Those forced distributions are going to keep getting bigger. By the time Cheryl's in her mid-80s, she could be forced to take out tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands more in income above and beyond her retirement income budget, right? This is money that she doesn't really need and money that maybe she's too old to spend, and a tax bill that honestly she can't avoid unless we act sooner when she's 62. So the only way to really diffuse that tax time bomb is to shrink the traditional IRA now before those RMDs kick in. And the tool that we use to do that is Roth conversions, right? We're voluntarily pulling money out of the traditional IRA. We're reaching into the future and pulling forward cash flows, paying taxes on it today at a known rate, and then moving that money into the Roth IRA where it can grow tax-free forever. Now, I know what you're thinking. Voluntarily paying more taxes today than you need to sounds kind of terrible. And you're right, it does kind of feel a little bit weird. But that's exactly what we're going to prove out today, what the math is, how it works, and then we can answer the question, is it really worth it? Now, this is where Social Security deferral and Roth conversions connect. And this is the part that I think most people have never seen or never considered. So for Cheryl, we want to manage her income to stay just under the second IRMA bracket. That's the income-related monthly adjustment amount is what IRMA stands for. And it's basically the amount that you have to pay for your Medicare. It's income-based, right? That's the level where Medicare surcharges start to get pretty meaningful. There's the free bracket. You still pay your Part B premiums. There's a much smaller bracket around $80 a month, and then there's a more meaningful bracket. We're trying to stay under the more meaningful bracket. So for a single filer in 2026, that number is roughly $135,000 per year in income. Now, the actual number is $137,000. I think we'll look at a chart here. But we're using $135,000 to be safe, right? We don't want to accidentally exceed that number. There's this idea that we talk about that close enough counts when it comes to Roth conversions, right? We don't want to be $1 over that amount because we have to pay those enhanced IRMA premiums for that entire bracket for a whole year. We'd like to be just under that amount. So the saying is close enough counts with horseshoes, hand grenades, and Roth conversions. So here's the math in scenario A. Cheryl claims Social Security at 62, and we're going to jump into our tax software and look at this in a moment. $135,000, that's her total income target. That's her normal spending for her retirement plan plus Roth conversions. Minus $26,400, that's her Social Security income. Minus $90,000, that's what she's spending from her IRA. So doing all that math backwards, that leaves about $18,600 available for Roth conversions each year, right? Then we'll look at scenario B, which is everything the same except for Cheryl's deferring Social Security until 70. So $135,000, same income target, no Social Security income yet, meaning she's not claiming yet. Minus $90,000, that's the same spending from the IRA for her income goals, which leaves us $45,000 available for Roth conversions each year. Same income target, same spending, but by deferring Social Security, that gives Cheryl an extra $26,400 of Roth conversion room every single year. So here's the key takeaway I want you to watch for as we demonstrate this. Social Security income fills up your tax bracket, and full tax brackets means less room to convert your IRA from traditional IRA to Roth. So we're going to run the numbers, same scenarios as before, but now with Roth conversions from age 62 until age 70 in both scenarios. And then when Social Security kicks in, we stop converting. So we're modeling 62 to 70, deferring Social Security, and 62 to 70, claiming at 62. So we're back inside of our tax software here. Now we're claiming Social Security at 62, plus we're doing Roth conversions. So you can see all of our metrics are exactly the same, except we're going to scroll down to the bottom where it says Roth conversions. So here's our Roth conversions here. Starting it at 62, we are converting $18,600 per year, and we're not adjusting that for inflation. And then at age 70, we're dropping those conversions down to 0. So back to our chart here, after we illustrate those Roth conversions, you can see we have a lighter blue line, what our normal income was, and then the darker blue line was Roth conversions. And when we look at projected taxes, we have from our original model, $4.2 million in total taxes. After we do those Roth conversions, we bring that total lifetime tax down to $3.9 million with a projection difference of between those two numbers of $331,000. Not bad. Portfolio value, again, this is illustrating the difference between paying taxes now versus later, but really it's illustrating the difference between your Roth, while it starts significantly smaller. Remember, Cheryl didn't have a Roth on day one. We're doing this through conversions, and her Roth is earning just 1% per year better than her traditional because there's just less bonds. So we have a ending portfolio value of $13.7 million versus the Roth projection portfolio ending at $14 million for a projection difference of $627,000. Again, we'll look at these side by side here in a moment. And then for our final example, we want to look at claiming Social Security at 70 and then doing bigger Roth conversions. Basically using the amount saved by not claiming Social Security and just filling that up with larger Roth conversions. So all of the same variables here. The only difference is at the bottom here with Roth conversions, starting at 62, $45,000 per year, not adjusted for inflation, such as $45,000 for each of those 8 years. And then at 70, that drops down to 0. So our projected taxes, our base case is $4.3 million. Our Roth, after we do our Roth conversions, we get that down to $3.5 million for a projection difference of about $809,000. Again, we'll look at these side by side here. And then the same thing, we get a projection difference between the Roth and the base case of about $1.4 million. So looking at these scenarios side by side, scenario A is that Cheryl claims her benefits at 62 and then converts $18,600 per year until age 70. So her lifetime tax bill without any conversions is about $4.25 million. Lifetime tax bill with conversions about $3.9 million. Total tax savings about $331,000. Ending portfolio boost around $627,000. Not bad at all, of course, right? That's better than poking the eye with a sharp stick. But I think we can do a little bit better. Scenario B, Cheryl defers Social Security until 70. She's able to convert more because she's not collecting Social Security. She converts $45,000 a year for 8 years. So her lifetime tax bill without conversions, $4.3 million. Lifetime tax bill with conversions, $3.5 million. Tax savings about $809,000. And then the additional ending value is about $1.4 million. Now, granted, $1.4 million at age 100, that's a pretty big number, but it's also a big number 38 years from now, right? Well, what's that worth in today's dollars? When we discount it back at a 3% annual inflation rate, that $1.4 million future value is worth about $520,000 today. $500,000, right? For managing your taxes and managing your government benefits strategically over the next 8 years, not a bad return on investment, I don't think. So now I already know what the comments are going to say below this video. I've made videos like this before. So I want to get ahead of a couple objections, right? The first objection is I'm not going to live to age 100. I might not even live to age 90. So why on earth would I want to voluntarily pay more taxes now if I might not live long enough to see the benefit? Totally fair question, totally valid. But here's my answer. You're not just solving your tax problem, you're solving your kids' tax problem too. There's been 2 pieces of legislation recently that many people haven't correctly connected to this conversation. Number 1 is the RMD age has been pushed back, right? It used to start at 70 and a half, then it was 72 and 73, and depending on your birth year, like our example today, it could be 75. That sounds like a gift, right? It's more time between now and when we're forced to take distributions, but here's what it actually does. It compresses the time that you have to take those distributions, which makes each distribution bigger, right? It means a larger balance sitting in your IRA for longer, growing, and building up a bigger tax-deferred bill. Number 2 is that the stretch IRA is gone. So your kids used to be able to inherit your IRA and then stretch those distributions over their lifetime. So those payments were much smaller and much more manageable, and in some cases, if they were young enough, barely noticeable. But that's not the law anymore. Now they have 10 years to empty that account. Just 10 years, right? If Cheryl lives to 90 and her kids are going to be 55 or 60 years old and they inherit it, well, they're in their peak earning years potentially, right? Maybe they're already financially independent. As we often mention, super savers tend to raise super savers. Now they're getting a massive chunk of taxable income forced on them every year for 10 years on top of everything else that they're already earning. So even if you don't personally live long enough to see the full benefit of these conversions for yourself, I think the math still works because it's not just your life expectancy, it's your life expectancy plus 10 years. So the second objection that I often hear when I talk about this is my kids are going to inherit this money no matter what. They should be grateful. I don't care about their tax bill. And I hear you. That is a valid criticism and I understand it. But here's my personal take on how I think about it. A dollar in taxes is a dollar that goes to the government. A dollar saved in taxes is a dollar that goes to your kids. All I'm asking you to do is watch a couple YouTube videos or maybe hire a qualified advisor. And the payoff is $500,000 in today's money that stays in your family instead of going to the IRS, right? That's a deal that I'm making every single day and twice on Sunday if I have the option, right? So here's what we've tested today. Claiming Social Security early doesn't actually save you money on taxes because if you die when you're supposed to die based on the year you're born, your lifetime Social Security income is almost the same either way. As the system is designed, again, that's the dirty secret of Social Security timing. What actually moves the needle tax-wise is Roth conversions, and deferring Social Security in Cheryl's case gives her an additional $26,400 more of conversion room every single year during that critical window before those forced RMDs kick in. Now, the goal here isn't necessarily to maximize the size of your Roth, it's to minimize the size of your traditional IRA before the government forces you to take money out on their schedule instead of your schedule. So if this helped you think about your situation differently, go ahead and click the like button, let the algorithm know that we're doing our job, and while you're there, go ahead and click subscribe. We talk about these kind of strategies every week on this channel. Now, if you've watched this video and you're thinking, I need to run the numbers for myself, or I don't have an advisor that's talking to me about these kind of topics, well, that's exactly what we do in our real non-YouTube lives. The first step towards engaging with us is what we call the Retire Ready Blueprint. That's where we sit down, we look at your specific situation, and we map out a conversion window in tandem with your Social Security timing with your portfolio so that you know exactly what your plan should look like. So if you want to learn more, go ahead and click the link in the description. So that's what I got prepared for you this week. I hope it's helped to make your retirement even better. Until next time, I'm Ben, and I'll see you on the next one.